This video is about standardized work for the supervisors. Standardization is the basis for training. If you think about it, if we're training in a bunch of different ways, we won't get a consistent product. So standardization is the basis for all of our training. So we want to train people the same way, so we're getting the same results across different crews, and so our customers can have a similar experience. It's key to quality, because if we're not doing standardized work the same way every time, we won't have quality work. And it's also the platform for improvement. If we don't have standard work from which to draw from, we can't improve. So we have to have standardized work in order to improve on that. So what do we need to do as supervisors? We should encourage our workers to constantly question how they do their work. We actually want them to look at how they do their work and seek to improve it all the time. Taiichi Ono from Toyota said, "Something is wrong if workers do not look around each day, find things that are tedious or boring, and then rewrite the procedures. Even last month's manual should be out of date." Or in this case, the videos that we created that we are using as our standards should be constantly looked to be upgraded on. Make a new video and make a new standard so we can grow and improve as a company. The third bullet point down, we are doomed to failure without a daily deconstruction of our various preconceptions. We should always be challenging the way that we do things. So standards, funny enough, isn't about staying put. It's about the platform upon which we improve. Standards allow the worker to inspect their work and see if something's wrong. So if we have a standard from which to inspect against, the employee will know something is wrong, and we can know if there's a quality problem. So what we need to do as a result of that is to make your workplace into a showcase that can be understood by everyone at a glance. In terms of quality, it means to make the defect immediately apparent. We want defects to show up really quickly and for people to be able to see that there's a defect or a quality problem in the work that we're doing, and standards help do that. So once we've established how we want to do our work through videos, and by telling everybody the way that we expect them to do the work, how do we get it to stick? How do we get all of our employees to do it so we have a consistent product that's quality every single time? So the first step is to set the expectation by demonstrating the specifics. That's usually done during the morning meeting, when we watch a video that shows how that work is done by somebody who's an expert on that. And that's how we teach it, morning meeting every morning. But it takes more than just letting everyone know what our expectations are as a supervisor and at Sunrock. We need to inspect the expectation. So as a supervisor, we have to do that on the job as the work is being done, primarily through coaching. So when you walk out onto the job, you need to know the steps and then make sure that they're adhering to them every single time you go out on the job, and remind them and coach them and help them so they know exactly how to do it. Because just because you watch it doesn't mean you actually understand how to do it as the work is being done. The third thing is that you need to reinforce the expectation. Continue following up until it's clear that the crew understands the process and is following the process every time. A lot of times we'll call that keeping the rope tight. That we're not doing it half the time or 80% of the time or 50% of the crews. We want all of our crews following the standard every single time so we can get consistent quality on all of our projects. And that actually takes a lot of pressure off you as a supervisor, because once you've reinforced it enough, then they'll inspect their own work and they'll make sure that it's done correctly. But you have to reinforce it over and over and over, and eventually they'll be doing it on their own, and you'll know that the standard is sticking. Taiichi Ono said, "No goal, regardless of how small, can be achieved without adequate training." And this is how we train. We set the expectation, we inspect the expectation, and then we reinforce the expectation. So the standardization, is it mindless conformity or intentional mindfulness? Do standards turn everyone into mindless drones? Does it just turn everyone's brain off because they're being told how to do everything? So Bill Marriott, president of Marriott Hotels, if you think about a Marriott hotel, very clean, very high-end. If you go to a Marriott hotel, you expect a certain level of service, you expect a certain level of cleanliness, and they have to have that in thousands of their hotels all across the world with every single employee. So it's very important that they have high standards. So Marriott said, mindless conformity and thoughtful setting of standards should never be confused. In our case, The latter has proved to be one of the main engines of our success. So standardization has been one of the main reasons they've been successful. Even the most maniacally detailed procedures can't cover every situation, problem, or emergency that might arise. That same thing exists at Sunrock. We can't come up with a standard for every single thing that might arise. But what solid standards do is nip common problems in the bud, so that staff can focus instead on solving uncommon problems that come their way. Employees are then free to focus their energies on problem identification and problem solving. So it takes the common problems and makes them easier to implement and more consistent. And then as weird problems occur, they can use their brain power and use their identification and problem solving skills to help on those uncommon problems. It's also important to recognize that it isn't essential to identify every single movement or every step in order to effectively standardize work. In work such as construction or masonry or concrete or anything that Sunrock does, you must identify the most critical and commonly repeated aspects of the job. Then learn what it takes to complete them as simple as possible and without flaw. Then we want to document those practices, primarily through video since it's the easiest way. Teach these practices in the morning meeting and on the job, and diligently train people to follow the procedures as the work is being done. And then I'll add one more. We need to reinforce until we know everybody is following it every single time. That's an important aspect of being a supervisor and how we train. It's also important to recognize that some of our work shouldn't be focused on right away for standardization. There are portions of our work that are less critical. They have a broader range of acceptability, are performed very seldom, and thus do not need strict control. Some items that we do are, when it comes to quality, we have to get it right. We have to hit it right on, or else there could be a major problem. Other items aren't near as critical, and we don't need a strict control. We should really be focusing on the things that create major quality problems and focus in on those first. And some tasks change as the work progresses and must be evaluated as the work progresses. So particularly in construction, as the work changes, you need to be able to reevaluate the work as it changes. So for instance, a scraper, where the scrapers are going, that might work for a little while, but there really is a path that the scrapers are going on might work for a little while, but they may need to change as the job progresses. And we need to be able to think on our feet, and that can't necessarily be standardized. So not all work can be standardized, but many of the tasks, particularly the very important tasks, can be standardized so we can get the same results. As supervisors, we want to make sure we're watching that fine detail so we hit quality and that people are following those standards.